All right, I'm back. May 26th, I sent in 10 modern comics to CBCS. December 17th, I picked them up. Thing is, they arrived. I'm Canadian, so I went through their Mississauga branch. So they received them, I think, on the 26th. By the time they send them down to Dallas, go in that massive collection there. Get I had each one cleaned, pressed, graded, and then slabbed, of course. And then they sent from Dallas back to Ontario, shipped by FedEx back to me here in Calgary. Signature required, which is good. So finally have them. It's almost 6 months, or has it been? Yeah, pretty darn close. If you follow CBCS on the forums, they're saying like every month is a record-breaking month for them. So they're basically getting slammed. They have one facility down in the US. So took some time. Again, I'm not a speculator flipper. I don't need 3-week turnarounds to maintain the hype. But what I did, I sort of put these in order of value, is if they were all 9.8s from lowest to highest, except for this one, which I knew would be a lower grade. Sentimental favorite of mine, Ghost in the Shell #1, 8.0 from Dark Horse. I have read it at least a few times, so totally not surprised about that one. I can tell you everything else came back 9.2 or better, and there are 2 9.8s. The other thing I can tell you is that it is really hard to distinguish between 9.4, 9.6, and 9.8. You've got to go through with like a magnifying glass, or not a magnifying glass, but you've got to be pretty good to notice the difference. So this one was literally one I just chucked in at the end because it was a really pretty looking book. 9.8, Sword of Azrael #1. Not hugely valuable, but hey, I'm happy for that 9.8. That gives it, and white pages as well. So actually all my comics except for one came back white pages, and the one that didn't was off white to white, and I'm not surprised because that one came from Ontario, which has a much more humid climate than dry old Calgary where I live. We have very low humidity, which is great for comic preservation. So what's the next one here? So we're off to a good start. I mean, yes, I got an 8.0 on that Ghost in the Shell #1, but I was not surprised at all. When I sent it in, I knew I'd be lucky to get a 9.2. So no worries there. Not one I'm going to sell. Just wanted to keep. So this was one I bought on eBay last year. I paid $10 for it. It's Lobo #1 from his first miniseries. So not first appearance, but it is a newsstand. 9.6. Not easy to snag those 9.6 newsstands, let me tell you. I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, for $10 plus, by the time it was all said and done, to get it graded and just shipped and everything like that, probably about $50 per book. So we're looking at about a $60 investment for a newsstand Lobo #1, 9.6. Yeah, I can't complain. This one I was a little sad about because I thought it looked better. But again, this was the Astro City #1 from Image that I picked up on the channel. I had a video about that. It was one of my kind of rec picks. I still think Astro City will do well. I'm just unhappy with 9.2 white pages. I haven't looked at any of the graders notes or anything like that. So, but it's it's still not bad. It's I wish it was a higher grade. It looks really nice. Like it looks bang on. But I didn't go through these books, so and I always say I'm not a professional grader because I am not. Very few people are, to be fair. So there you go. 9.2. That was actually, besides the Ghost in the Shell, a little spoiler, that was my lowest grade, was a 9.2. So here's one I wish was higher. It looked good. But those are one of those Batman 436 I picked up off of eBay. I have a video about that, whereas I had, as opposed to spending $25 for Star Wars The High Republic #1. I used my money to buy 5 copies of Batman 436 for $25. And this is one of them. It came back at 9.4, so can't complain. These ones are notoriously difficult to get a 9.8 in. Now you know why. Those all black covers really are buggers. Again, I'm not sure what the faults were, but like I said, everybody says it's a toughie. Now we know it is. This is the only one that came back off-white to white. Everything else is white because that one was from Ontario, kept there for many years. They have a much wetter climate than we do because we're 4,000 feet above sea level here. So let's go to the other one. Now, I already showed you my Lobo #1. Omega Men #3. First appearance of Lobo, 9.8. Very nice. Happy about that. That makes this book valuable. This is one I picked up for like, I think $5, dollar bin diving, a few years back, maybe 3-4 years ago. I remember grabbing it, and I'm like, oh, $5, yeah, I'll pay that. And it looked nice too, and I guess it was. Look at that. So it's obviously one of those ones that they got put in the bag and board right off the bat, and it just sat there for years. So there you go. Very pretty. Very happy to have a Lobo #1 and a 9.8. Can't complain. Here's one I was wishing would have came back in 9.8, but this is X-Men 244, first appearance of Jubilee. Again, another dollar bin dive. I paid $5 for this one as well, so I guess I can't complain too much. The unfortunate thing is there's probably a fair number of 9.8s floating out around there. But you know, it would still be a somewhat valuable comic by the time they announce like the casting for the actor and bring X-Men into the MCU and all that good stuff. So, not bad. Would have been happy with a 9.4, but like I said, I didn't go through these books with the fine-tooth comb, but it looks good. I mean, I'm just looking at it with my naked eye here, and it is really hard if you're just looking at a book to tell between like a 9.4 and a 9.8. You've got to really know your stuff. So here's another one that I'm not surprised about the grade, because when I bought it, the seller had estimated about 9.2 for it, and this guy is good. The guy that I bought from, I think he's probably one of the best graders here in Calgary. This is the Tales of the Teen Titans 44, first Nightwing, and a 9.4. So totally happy with that grade. Again, a black book, hard to get high grade. These things in 9.8s are like ghosts, so hard to get. So the $100 I paid for that, I can't complain. A 9.4, yeah, it's still a pretty good rate of return, all things said. So not that I'm going to go out and sell it right away, but yeah, I like Nightwing. I think he's probably one of my favorite characters. I think Batman's superhero wise is #1, but Nightwing's right up there. First, I was a little heartbroken about this next one, but let me tell you, I've only got 2 left, and these are the big guns here. There's 2 things that set this thing apart. Now, first, okay, Saga of Swamp Thing 37, 9.4. So yes, I was a little disappointed that came back at 9.4, but let me get this thing nice and close. See that 95 cents? Do you know what that is? That's the Canadian price variant. So that's cool. Here's the other thing. See that barcode? That's a newsstand. So what I have is first full John Constantine in a 9.4 Canadian price variant newsstand. So can you be upset about that? No. My brother picked this up for me at one of the Calgary Comic Expo. I think it was a number of years ago. He paid $40 for it. because he knows I love John Constantine, and I do. So I don't even think he realized that it was a Canadian price variant or a newsstand. I don't think those really mattered as much back then, but yeah, okay. So this one will be a valuable book. Finally, the last one, if you can recall my previous video, was X-Men 266 First Gamut newsstand. Now, at the time, I had told you that my brother went to a comic store and bought it for $10 for me, but apparently I've had some clarification from him that wasn't the truth. What happened was he bought it from another kid way back when and kind of got in a bidding war for it because some older kid, he was going to pay $2, but then it was the older kid said, "Oh, I'll give you $5," and so finally he only had $10 with him, and he just went, "Look, I'll give you 10," because originally he was going to buy like 3 comics from this other kid for $10, and he only got one, but it was this one. So it is a newsstand. Knowing that story now, it means that some like 12-year-old has basically read it, I'm sure, and flipped through the pages. So knowing that, I'm not totally surprised, but I'm still pretty happy with the 9.4. There was one noticeable little spine tick that I was hoping the pressing would take care of, but it's still there. But that's really the only spine tick I see. So it's 9.4, white pages, newsstand, right? So can't complain. The 9.8 would have been like a $5,000 comic as a newsstand. Again, I think once the mutants come into the MCU, casting is announced for Gambit. Yeah, this will see a good bump. So overall, 2 9.8s, and basically everything else was 9.2 and up. Seemed mostly around a 9.4. I can't complain. This just goes to show you why 9.8s are so valuable. Because yeah, it is really hard. Unless you go to your comic shop and you look for the best comic, handle it with kid gloves, put it right in a bag and board right away. Don't read it. Yeah, it's probably a good 9.8 candidate. But for me, I mean, that's one of the issues with comics nowadays is because people don't read them. They tend to get their attachment from the media, like either a streaming series or movies or things like that, like kind of mass market. So I was sort of thinking about it, like what are the determining factors that makes a comic valuable? And I came up with really 4 and maybe 5. I'll get into that. But the first one is significance. Now, a lot of people will say it's age. Age has something to do with it. That's kind of my number 2. But significance is the number 1 factor. Because if you look at Amazing Fantasy 15, I'll put that against any older comic, except for maybe Action number 1, or Detective 27. But really, anything from, let's say, the 50s. Amazing Fantasy 15 is going to destroy it for value because it's the first appearance of Spider-Man. Therefore, an incredibly significant comic book. Second one, yeah, I would go with age, especially, like really old. So anything from the 40s is automatically going to be valuable, even if it's a non-key issue. 70s, not so much. So maybe grade is a little more important than age, but then again, the expectation for all modern comics is 9.8. So you can see with a lot of those moderns I have, even though like that Saga of Swamp Thing 37 is only a 9.4, it's still valuable because Canadian price variant, it's a newsstand, but like the expectation is a 9.8 for those, or I guess the X-Men 266 would be a better example. Because it's basically from the early 90s, people expect a 9.8. So we've got significance, age, grade. I would say the 4th one is basically character or popularity, right? So is it a known character? If it's, for example, like the Phantom, let's say, from who was that? Was that Charlton? No. Fawcett? No. Key? No. Anyway, the Phantom, even though he's somewhat known, wouldn't be as valuable as, let's say, Batman. So, because Batman's a much better known character. So there, and finally, that sort of optional fifth one I have is basically hype. So, how hyped is the movie right now? Is the comic right now? So, like I said, once the mutants make it to the MCU, once the Gambit actor is announced, once the Jubilee actor is announced, maybe you have trailers out there. Yeah, there's going to be some hype, so you'll probably see better exposure, better prices, right? The other thing is how hyped are comics in general. You can see, like when I sent these off the end of May, that was kind of the peak of the most recent sort of boom in comics. And now prices are coming down, which doesn't bother me that much, to be honest. But it was definitely a seller's market back when I sent these off. So, but again, most of these are my personal collections. I'll probably have to flip one or two or three just to justify the cost of sending them off to CBCS, which all told, shipping, and I had full clean press done on all of them, was about $500 for 10 comics. 100 of that was literally just shipping. So they're about $40 each to do. So yeah, I can't complain. I mean, it's not bad, but not cheap either, right? Like you don't want to go out and throwing away $500 every time you send 10 comics off. So I will send some of my older stuff next time. I've got some dandies, kind of silver, bronze age. Horror comics is kind of my big thing, but I've got some lovely Batmans as well. I really should get off and get them in and get them protected, and that's the main thing for me is A is protection, and B, something you leave for your kids. I have 2 daughters, so if something happens to me, it's much easier for them to sell or a graded comic versus a raw comic, right? So you can kind of maximize your value, and it preserves better, right? So there you have it. Yeah, I think the one I'm most happiest with is Saga of Swamp Thing 37, just because it's a newsstand and a Canadian price variant. So that's kind of cool. Even though it's only a 9.4, it's good. Happy to have First Lobo 9.8, Sword of Azrael. Me, don't really care, but again, it just looked pretty, so I threw it in at the end, and it came back at 9.8. Cool, right? So yeah. Still not a hugely valuable comic, but who knows? Maybe Jean-Paul Vallée will come back again and make it hot once more. So anyway, thanks for watching. There you have it. There's my first CBCS submission. Any questions about CBCS? Feel free to fire it off in the comics. I'll try and answer as best I can. But overall, it was kind of a cool experience, even though it was a long time in the making. Glad to have. Kind of cool. Those are my first slabs ever. I've never purchased a slab in my life. So there you have it. These are my first 10. Anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.